Hi, everyone. I am Mary Meyer, and I am the host of Healthy, Happy, Wise, and Wealthy. And this is our premiere, very first podcast. I'm so excited to have these ladies in the room with me. So, I actually have with me another three podcasters. And Kara Stoltenberg has written a book, and so has Jaclyn Strominger, and Erica Christie is the brains behind this operation, and I don't know what I'd really do without her. There, I wouldn't attempt to do a podcast. So the whole basis of this podcast is about talking through things that, in life, we all want to be healthy, we want to be happy, we want to be wise, we want to be wealthy, but a lot of things happen in life where it can get derailed. So I am way more interested in talking to people that have lived through some stuff and know some things, and what we can learn from that. So we're gonna do that tonight. And so Erica Christie, she is magic in my mind. So being an actor and someone who's done hosting, the thing that you have to have is someone who knows all the stuff behind the camera and all the stuff that I don't even know the words for. So it's like I am not nearly as wise as she is. So Erica, I adore her. Erica is in Atlanta. So, and I've worked with her on ATL Live and some other things. So that's super fun. Okay, and the other ones. So Jaclyn Strominger, she's next on our list right here. So I have now moved to Reno. These are my ladies from three different cities. Erica's in Atlanta, Jaclyn in Reno, and Kara in Franklin, Tennessee, near Nashville. So Jaclyn Strominger, I met after moving here to Reno last year. She's a high performance business coach with the Missing Link Network. And she has just, in the last week, gotten her first book, which I'm super excited that she co-wrote. And I'm so excited about that. For her, Kara Stoltenberg is a dear, dear friend who I have done so much work with myself over the years for doing healing work from Lyme's disease and other things. And she has probably one of the biggest wealth of knowledge that I think I on this planet in terms of just the things that she knows and how she helps people and the wisdom that she has. So both Jaclyn and Kara have some really cool podcasts, and Erica, of course, too, has one that is very helpful for teaching people all the stuff to know behind the camera and making things happen. So I would love for you guys to just say a couple things. Erica didn't necessarily want to be on this whole thing, but if she wants to say a couple things, and then Jaclyn and Kara, I would love for you guys to just kind of introduce yourself and kind of just tell us a little bit about your podcast, and we'll start with the podcast and then we'll go with the other stuff.
Yeah, I'll just say hi to everybody real quick. Mary is amazing. I'm really, really excited that the two of you are going to be on this show. And I'm really interested to hear the golden nuggets, I'm going to say, that Mary's going to get out of you on the show. So best of luck, and really looking forward to hearing this great conversation. So
there's so much I want to ask you guys. So let's just start with Jaclyn, tell us about, because I'm just starting this podcast, right? So I'm new, and I want people who are listening to go, if I'm starting a podcast, why would I start it? What would be the benefit of it, and why would I do it?
Okay, so all right, so I'm so excited, Mary, and Kara, it's so great to meet you. So podcasting. First, my podcast, Unstoppable Leadership Spotlight podcast, I started it. My first episode was in September of 2024. And I jumped into podcasting for a couple of different reasons. One was I love networking and I love meeting people. So that was sort of number one. It was a great way to meet people. Number two, it is a great way to create authority in your business and to get your name out there and to use your podcast as a way to also meet people that could either introduce you to people or potentially create leads for your business, right? It's a great avenue. And the other kind of key reason for me also was I have a huge passion for helping people. And it's called my podcast. Again, it's Unstoppable Leadership Spotlight. It's to help create great leaders in the world, because I am a firm believer that if we have great leaders out there, that maybe we would have more people that would want to instead of running away from companies, want to run towards companies and to have happier people out there. Because so many people leave their job or leave their end of the day, and they're like, oh my God, I hate where I'm working. And 9 times out of 10, I hate to say it, it's leadership. So if we could make happier and better leaders, maybe we'd have happier and happier people. Right. So, right. And I'll share my journey going into podcasting. I started being a guest, and there's a couple of different sites that I could recommend. You can let me know if you want me to do that you could go to get your name on there to be a guest. And it was through guesting that I got comfortable, and then I was like, I think I want to have my own. And so I personally started using something called matchmaker.fm. And then I started using something called Podmatch. And I love, between the two of those, and there's other ones out there, and there's lots of places that you can go on Facebook and LinkedIn and social, whatever, to get matched. But what I found that I liked about Podmatch was that it actually acts like a dating site in a way, where it actually connects you with different people. And as a host, you actually get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. And they are not sponsoring us, me yet, or anyone, and but soon. But soon. No, I'm just kidding. Kara, tell us about your
Yeah, thanks for
podcast.
having me. I am so excited for you in this new endeavor, as yours is a voice that will be beautiful and wonderful in the world. And I'm excited to be part of your launch into this podcasting journey. Um, I launched my podcast on January 11th last year, 2024. So we have been going strong for a year. And at the end of the year, the celebration of like, we are still going strong. And season 3 is coming, and it's happening now. Such a great feeling. For me, I had a major life change. So I've been coaching for nearly 2 decades. And it's been 7 years ago, I was in a hit and run accident that, I was on my bike and I was in a hit and run accident, and it completely changed my life. And I did not work at all for 2 years. And then after that, started coaching slowly and realized, oh, I'm not going to be able to just one-on-one coach people and full-time work the way I was. So I began to ask with my arms open, show me what I can do that allows me to bring my gifts and offerings into the world in a different way and works for my brain, because I have a brain injury, as you know, Mary, and allows me to make a living while making an impact. Making an impact is my most important thing. I know that's the thing that drives me more than anything, but we all also have to make a living. So that was the beginning. I guess as I continued to ask that question, podcasting was something that I always wanted to do even before my accident. It was something on my desired list. It's something that I really enjoy speaking to people. My podcast is called Stepping In with Kara, and Stepping In was the name that I chose because what I do, what is my superpower, is stepping in with people, holding space for people, for their story, and drawing them deeper into that story. And this is what I do in my coaching and help people, find liberation from, things that have happened, circumstances in their lives, to become, truly okay right where they are and find a way to navigate to the best and brightest as they continue moving forward. So what I found in my journey, especially after my accident, was, kind of being an author, a coach, and just being in the world where the frame is always the hero's journey, and being on this, trajectory of healing where my own, I just kept feeling like I don't feel like the hero of my story. And I didn't like that feeling. And I kept trying to be the hero, like, and then you got to this place and then you did this. And I've just been in a really long story that's still going, and it's still frustrating. And I feel like that's life. And so I wanted to have a podcast that, rather than like, and now I've got it all wrapped up and here's the bow and looking back, here's how that was. I really like to step into stories, even if they are something that's happened in the past, and go deep into the vulnerable spaces that all of us as humans can relate to and be encouraged by and inspired by one another, because there's so much common ground in, the triumphs, but also the struggles of life. And I love, meeting people, as Jaclyn was talking about. Like, it's been an amazing opportunity to be able to connect with others in their journey. And I have absolutely loved the response from other people, like, oh my gosh, I so related to that person, even though I've never been in those circumstances, like just those little nuggets that are just humanity. And we can share those.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And one of the things that I love about having you both on here is that, I know you both very well, which is why I asked you to be on here with me, because I so appreciate it. I'm like, I just have to get started and do that. So, and sometimes that's what you do, right? When you're starting something new, the different personalities show through. So, and with you both also, I described you guys today as almost like two wings on a bird. So where, Kara you're very incredibly gifted at taking people into their story and helping them heal in the places they need to. And Jaclyn is so very good at making sure, like, you want to build something, that you get your ass in gear, and you start building. So it kind of depends. And it's like, being able to find, like, and I think, and anyone listening too, it's like we have our voice, we have our voice in the world, and our voice sounds different than other people's voices, right? And for me, I know I will look at someone who's a leader and go, they're amazing. And how do I make myself be like them? When in reality, our voices are what they're supposed to be for a reason, because we have a specific thing that we're doing, and it's very good and it's very helpful. So, and that's what I love about both of you so much. You're both so good at what you do. So, and on that note, I wanted to ask, like, a little bit, like, you guys both do coaching. So like when you're, so this is a question for both of you. And again, it's going to be like completely two very different things. But when you guys take on a client to coach them and you're working with someone, what's kind of your methodology? What are you thinking about? What things are you looking at in them that, to help them move forward?
Okay.
So Jaclyn,
well, first of all, I just have to say, this is so great. And again, like, I'm so honored to be on here with you, but it was something that saying getting started. It was actually one of the things that I just shared. We can't necessarily wait for perfection and to have everything lined up. You just have to go. Right. So I'm so excited for you to go. So looking at my clients, I mean, I look at clients very differently, but one of the biggest things that I walk my clients through, and every one of them, is that I do look at if I'm where they are in all different aspects of their lives. I'm a big believer in using, whether you call it the circle of life or the wheel of life. I love looking at that and looking at the eight different components that what make up parts of our lives, right? And then breaking that down and looking really at a lot of core key values and what drives people. And then I'm looking at what their goals are and where they want to go, and really kind of honing in on their mission and their vision. And we're taking it and applying those into action plans, because everybody does have a set goal. And if we want to move forward, what are those? And what are those personal, what's the personal mission and goal, and what is the business goal and mission? And we're creating intentions on both personal and business. And we're focusing in. We pick two. We can't pick too many, but really honing in on what those are. And then looking at what people are going through, and really want to find out either what's stopping them, blocking them, what's getting in their way, what are some of those fears, because all of those things come out and then helping them with processes, particularly in business, to, as I love to say, what are those 2 steps that they need to take each day to move forward?
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I've done coaching with both of you. So like you both are my friends, but I've most recently my thing just moved. That was fun. This is my first time doing a podcast. Not my first time in front of a camera, but doing a podcast. Uh, uh, but when the most recently with Jaclyn, so we were talking through business stuff and what's going on with that, and like the feedback I got was like, okay, this is really helpful. This is definitely the next step I need to do for sure. And I do think there's those, we just have stages in our life where we need both things. I know when I met Kara, well, I didn't meet you, I had known you before this, but when I started working with you, like I was not healthy at all. And I was not physically healthy. I don't even think I realized how not physically healthy I was. And you were doing more health coaching. We'll call it coaching. I mean, you're doing your health magic back then. I don't even know all the words. And then it became more of a emotional and then spiritual and all the different aspects of that too. So I'm a Kara, that kind of question. So when you take on
Yeah.
now what you're doing right now, so when you work with someone, what do you look for?
Yeah.
What's your
And
process and all that?
I have shifted more into like spiritual life coaching and mentorship as opposed to health coaching. But I mean, try taking someone out of the health realm after spending, a decade in it. I'm always listening for that. But I think for me, I also wanted to tag on one of my favorite mantras is action brings clarity. So you just diving in and like taking the action, like it'll all become clear. um, for me, I'm listening, like my brain hears connections between I family programming, energy blocks. I do a lot of work with energy hygiene and just energy in the body. And I used to work with that in terms of the physical body. I still will bring people into their physical body, their somatic, experience, and consider, how emotions are showing up in the body, where emotions are showing up in the body. I do a lot of inner child work with people. I can hear when someone's talking to me and they're expressing and they share something like make a profound statement or like a belief comes out. I can hear when it's an inner child part that's coming out, and I'm just I can just hear that and then draw that out. So a lot of people who have never done inner child work, I'm really tuned into different parts, those little young parts, teenage parts. I'm really big on the things that we go through in life do not define us. They are things that have happened to us. So when we can separate out things we've been through that have really affected us, and maybe they've even become part of who we are, how we operate in the world. But when we can find our agency within the story, and even rewrite some of those things. So I think I take people into those places. I do a lot of work with, just nervous system regulation, really tuning in like, where am I right now? Am I in freeze? Am I in fight? Am I in flight? Am I fawning and people pleasing? Am I able to access the ventral vagal? I'm enjoying life and I'm feeling good. And, just helping people kind of like tag in at any given time during the day and recognize where am I, and then have tools. I'm big on tools. So building the toolbox from nervous system regulators to energy tools to emotional regulation, like learning to really befriend all the emotions and have conversations with emotions, understand like, why is that anger there? What is that fear? Is it really danger? What, is a distortion of fear? Is it anxiety? Like what's going on and how can you use that in your life? So, I'm very big on giving tools and reminders to use those tools. So I may give someone a tool, but I always tell people like if I check in about it, it's not because you need to be like, oh gosh, I haven't done that. It's more like we all need to be reminded. We learn in layers. And over time, when you have support, you remember like, oh yeah, that tool, and it's actually helpful if I use it. And different tools work better for some people or for other people. So, getting to work with a coach or be a part of a group doing like group coaching or something is so helpful because over time you're reminded. It's sort of like when you're super sick, you forget like, wait, what things do I do to support my immune system? And you need your friend to tell you like, take your probiotic and up your vitamin D and take some vitamin C or, all those kind of things. So yeah, those are some of the things and I'm also big on rubber meets the road. Like we get clear on where we are so that we can actually travel in the direction that we really want to go in. Because if we aren't clear and really present to where we are in these bodies, we can't actually take steps toward a desire that we have. So as I help people get really honest and clear about where they are, their desires always come out, whether they're relational desires, work desires, family desires, inner desires, whatever. And we can take little steps toward those desires that are aligned, our actions aligning with what we really want. I help people see if they're taking actions in this direction, but what they really want is over here. They're never going to get there. But a lot of times it's those programming, old programs that are keeping us from taking action aligned to what we really want. So that's why I do the focus on kind of that deeper work. And that's where I go naturally, to the deeper stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and again, like I just feel like you guys are both so good at what you do and you're both helping people and it's just a little different focus. And I personally find that fascinating, because, and it's, you're both operating in your strengths in that for sure. So, and Kara has a group program that I hope she does again soon because I joined her in that last year. So these are two friends that I pay money to like give me advice, seriously. Worth it and worth it. So, for sure. So how do you take what you have learned from coaching people and putting that into a podcast? Like when people listen to your podcast, what is some of the wisdom that you've gotten from working with clients that will come out in that? Jaclyn,
So it's
start with
interesting,
you.
a lot of the parts of my podcast are actually for my guests to actually share their insight and wisdom. And what comes out actually is almost cementing key insights that we get to repeat because somebody else is sharing something that they have done or part of their story that you're like, oh, right. So that's like a huge part of what I do in X, Y, or Z. And it's really saying, oh yeah, great. That's a great thing. It's a great lesson and something that we can actually repeat and keep teaching. So like yesterday, for example, I had this guy on my podcast. He is amazing. First of all, he's 89 years old and you would never know it. He has written these amazing books. Really amazing, really just great person. And he's done awesome. He was an amazing CEO and leader in his field. And as we were talking about his experience and his journey and his parts of his life. Key wisdoms were coming out. And, it was in one of the key topics, it was like, remember to listen, right? Like, Kara, you were just listening, right? And that's one of the big things that a leader has to do is to listen. And I was kidding around. I'm like, we need to keep our ears open. If I could, I kept thinking of a funny comic that I could, because I can wiggle my ears. I'm not going to do it right now, but like wiggle my ears. And so people like, watch them. They're moving for a reason. We want you to listen and use your ears. And it kind of came out as one of his principles. And so I love I guess it's the part of my podcast is that the gaining and the insights that a lot of the people have just affirm some of the things that I guess that I do as a coach to help my clients be better leaders and be better stewards in their business and help them achieve more and be high achievers.
Yeah, for sure. And Jaclyn also has Missing Link Network, which is one of the things that I have found very helpful in business. So it's a networking group. So we go out there, we meet other business owners, and it is, of course, networking. Lots of times the groups are helping each other build each other's business with giving referrals, to grow business. But also what she's done with that is she's taken a lot of mastermind kind of ideas. So we're coming up with what's your elevator pitch, what's your unique, buying proposition, things that we have to know, and we're not necessarily good at that. So it becomes kind of like a board of directors almost for that. And it's another thing that I find very interesting between the two of you, right? Even though Kara is very much going in and you're very much going, let's go build, business is a lot of what you're doing, Jaclyn, is that it's the same principles, right? It's listening to others, listening to your own story, finding your truth, acting on your truth. It's really the same thing. So, Kara, your turn to kind of add into that, how you found in your podcast it really kind of is a similar to coach. I mean, I kind of know. I just want you to say it. Like how do you bring out the wisdom
I
in
love
that
it.
from those two
By the
things?
way, I'm like, Jaclyn, let's create something together, and so we can be a whole bird. I'm loving like
Let's
every
be
time
the
you're
whole
talking about it,
bird.
I'm like, I have
I'll
to go.
be the little body in the middle.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
for real.
my answer to that question is very similar to what Jaclyn said, because I am going to start doing solo episodes actually. And it's interesting how I've known I wanted to do solo episodes from the beginning, but because Mary, as you've alluded several times, I don't have just like, here's what I talk about, this thing. And that broadness, I talk about the experience of humans. I talk about what it is like to be a human alive on the planet and the kind of things that come up in life. That's a very broad topic. And so I think that it was most natural for me to start by bringing other people in and holding space for their story, because I do not think most people are very comfortable with actually stepping in and just being there with people in it, whatever it is. And right. And that's the thing that I'm really good at. And so part of it is like, let me highlight the things that these people are saying, like, tools that they use to get through hard times, or what it felt like to be in that. Like, let's go there. Like, let's not just say, oh man, I kind of didn't want to be here. Big statement. Like, let's go there a little more. Let's step into that a little bit. What was that like day in and day out? How did you survive that? And all of a sudden we're having a conversation on a different layer. My hope in that is that, people listening, if they're in that space, feel the inspiration of, okay, I'm not the only one who's ever been here. That's how we usually feel when we're in hard times. I also hope that people are learning how to actually just be with people in hard times, hold space for hard conversations. I think if we as a society got a little bit better about not needing to like fix it to make ourselves feel more comfortable, or offer some kind of like, well, like just thing. Yep.
Pick
Say the
yourself up
thing.
by your
Mhm.
bootstraps and
And,
positive thinking.
sometimes things are true,
Yeah,
but not helpful. Sometimes
yeah.
things just don't resonate, and just feel when one of the worst feelings when you're in a really hard circumstances is when you just feel like you are missing me. One of the greatest feelings is when you feel witnessed, when you feel like you get it. Oh my gosh, you're okay with me being right here. You're okay with me still being sad 15 years later. You're okay with I'm not positive at this moment in time. I'll get back there. But right now, I'm feeling hopeless. So I think for me, I want to keep having this conversation about what it really means to step in with yourself, which is one of the things I teach my clients to do, what it means to step in with one another, because we all want to have vibrant relationships with the people who really matter in our lives, in our families, in our communities, in our work. We want to have beautiful relationships, but I think talking about what does that look like, that's for me. So I guess I highlight when people say things that I'm like, ooh, that's really powerful. I will highlight and reflect that. I've learned, like when I first started, my coaching is so different than holding space for someone's story, because I am holding space for your story if I'm coaching you, but I'm also talking more. So I had to find like my groove with taking up a little more space and actually contributing more of my little nuggets to the conversation in the podcast episodes. And that kind of happened over time. And I find that in some episodes, I do more of that. And in some episodes, I do less of that. But as Jaclyn was sharing, I experienced the same thing. Like the wisdom from other people is just rampant. And we all have so much wisdom. And a lot of times we don't even know the things that we're saying are like so profound or so like poignant for people in so many circumstances,
Mm-hmm. And I do think what you're doing is so, I feel like it is, like you said, very overlooked. And there was even like something going around on Facebook recently that was about, holding space. And I remember I learned that term from you, like what that means. It's like we're just going to be here with each other. And Jaclyn, you do a great job with this too. And there's not we're not judging each other. We're hearing each other and wondering where we are and just acknowledging that's where we are. And just the fact that we need this so badly, because if you've been through some kind of hell, the worst thing in the world, and almost it's re-traumatizing and actually can take a trauma and make it, in my mind, 20 times worse by people who are not sitting with you and not seeing it and just saying, and then it becomes kind of a blame, right? You're like that because I won't even say the things that have been said to me, but they're awful in my mind, but from people who love me and are trying to help. And it's not helpful. So because it's not helpful and you're not seen and you don't understand some of the ramifications of what goes on in your body when you've been, for psychologically abused, for example, people don't understand what goes on in your nervous system. So people say dumb things, or, you don't know, like, in management, it's the same thing like in business. Like I just heard someone like, someone's having the worst time, getting divorced and all this stuff. And someone comes in with like the slam dunk on what the H is wrong with you. Like, so it translates to, your personal life and your business life. And if we're not paying attention to people being humans and just a cog in the wheel, or just, get over that, move on, pick yourself up, let's get going. We really do a lot of damage to people.
Mary, what you just, it's sharing that it's so important that whether you are, no matter where you are in your life, whether you're leading people or you're a partner in a firm. And when I say partner, I mean an employee, because I hate the word employee. It's like one of my, like, I hate, there's two words I think need to get out of work, which is manager and employee. We don't manage, you manage a herd of sheep. We are not sheep. We're not cows. We are humans. And every human in a business is a partner, and that's how I look at people. And so I think that no matter where you are in your life, or no matter what you are doing, we have to spend time getting to know what each other's, for lack of a better word, mission and vision is in life and where we want to be. And you have to put that emotional intelligence into your life for other people, because otherwise, if you treat people just like a cog on the wheel or the number, and they're not going to feel attached to the other person or the business or the thing. And we want to create that attachment. I think back to, times in like the best corporate experience and it wasn't the manager, it was the fact that the team that we were part of it was such an entrepreneurial family. We were all in it together. And when that ended, it was like a marriage ending or divorce, or you're breaking up a family. And I kept thinking, oh, we want to replicate this. We want to replicate this amazing attachment at another place. And what it was is that is and a huge learning was realizing that we all were part of something that we had a vested interest in seeing it succeed. And we each knew that we were, it was bigger than ourselves, right? And so if you can create that, whether it's, in your family, in your, like with the other people that are around you, you realize, yes, you're important, but there's so much more.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
I would
And
love to
and
share a quote. As you're
Kara, go
talking, I'm
ahead.
like, oh, I have to see who said this. And I'm gonna butcher his name, but is it Antoine de Saint, author of The Little Prince? If you want, if you want to build a print, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood, divide the work, and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. I mean, that just like sums up what you're talking about, Jaclyn. I think in any organization, like if we actually create that longing together and we're all like valued for whatever we're contributing and we have a voice and we're able to, share. I know like in my organization, like in my coaching and my podcasting, I'm like, I want everyone to feel like I'm doing things that feel aligned and make me feel alive. And, you have a voice. Like if you're like, this task drains me, can we look at reallocating? Or that's been one of the things my producer and I from the beginning have, really been so honest and open in our communication. And, we have a different level of commitment to each other and the product, the podcast itself. And I think when you feel that energy when that's there versus missing. And I think that happens in family systems, that happens in businesses. Like I love what you were saying. And I just wanted to share that quote.
But no, I absolutely love that. It's actually going to make me want to reread the Little Prince, because I'm like, I feel like so many of our kid books, right? Like there's certain ones that I just absolutely adore. And so I've got to reread the Little Prince. Another one of my absolute favorite ones is, the Melting Pot, which is a great book. It's about telling the truth and it's great. But there's also another book called Ellison the Elephant. And it is, all about knowing and finding your own voice. And it's a great book. I absolutely, the gist of it really quickly is that Ellison is this little elephant and he cannot make the trumpet sound at all of an elephant. And so, he goes through the things that we all go through as a kid, like being teased and that, like all those stuff. And he ends up going out, and his friend Weasel, not necessarily sure if it's really an imaginary friend or if it's a real friend, but Weasel helps him find his voice. And he makes this beautiful trumpet jazzy sound. And as soon as he starts making it, all the other elephants want to know how to do it. But it's like all about finding your voice. Like each and every one of us has a voice. We can say the same thing, but it's going to resonate differently with other people. And it's so important.
Yes. Yeah. I think these messages are so important. I think both in family and in personal circles and in business. And I just like, even this last week, was talking to people, three different people said they uh, were wondering if they should sue an employer because just the abuse, the abuse. I mean, it's psychological. It's not, being hit or anything, but is so bad. And I'm like, I feel like there's an epidemic in leadership going on. And this is people in different states and different industries. It's not one industry at all. And then of course, we have so much, interpersonal crises. That's kind of everywhere. So yeah. And it's what you guys are saying. It's the stuff. of listening and understanding and building together. And Jaclyn, I never heard that term. You don't like manager and employee. You like, what were the terms you
Partner,
liked? You said
partner,
partner,
where we
the
lead
partner.
people. We Oh my
How have
God,
I
I just
never
can't
heard that?
stand it. It drives me like it's like nails on a chalkboard. I'm an employee, and it just sounds so derogatory. Everybody is they're a team member, they're a partner, and we're made of leaders. Managers literally manage tasks, and we it's product management. It's task
Mm-hmm.
oriented. No, we lead people.
Right.
So get the word management and employee out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I do think it would change. I think it would change cultures that need to be changed in business and in, the world. So that's great. Um, do you guys, I wanted to ask you guys about your books, since you both have things that you've written, and just tell us a little bit about that. And then as we finish up, I'm just like, if there's questions you guys have of each other, I'd love to hear that too. But Kara, why don't you start this time and talk
Well,
about your book,
yeah,
your books? There's
I
multiple ones,
have
sections and
I have
books. Yeah.
co-authored 3 different books that have been published. The first one was called Pebbles in the Pond, Wave 4, and that one is a collection of stories about like a moment in time that was transformative in your life. And for me, that was a moment in time that was the first published um, piece that I ever put out into the world. And it was a huge part of my own healing because it was finding the freedom to, and for me, it wasn't about being seen or anyone having access to me. Like I didn't have the fear of like, oh, I don't want people to see me. It was the person who had been my abuser. I did not want that person to have access to me. And it was terrifying to put anything out in the world. So I'm happy to say I'm so far past that. And I'll put anything in the world. Like I am just living my free life. Um, then I did another one called Dream Boldly, I Dare You. And that one was really fun. And that was a compilation of bold dreaming and moments, shared by people where a dream, either, the premise of the dream or the dream becoming reality. That's a really cool book. And most recently, I contributed a chapter to a breathwork anthology that, I shared of a story. It was actually from my near-death experience and what breathwork, how breathwork has been a part of my healing. I love contributing chapters to anthologies because it's so like there's a start, there's a finish, there's a word count, there's you go on a journey to write it. Anytime you write and publish anything, it's a journey, it's an inner journey. But you can't like drag it out so much because it's just like, here's your parameters. And the creator in me loves those parameters. I was actually working on a book before my accident, and I may still write that book, but I definitely switched gears. And most recently and currently, I'm working on a book about my journey in having a life event that completely changed my life, pulled the rug out from under me after I had worked so hard to secure that rug under me. You know, I had really worked hard to build a life that I loved, and then whoop, one day it all went away. And not all of it. There were aspects of it that were still there, but with a brain injury, you are not yourself. You can't access all parts of yourself. And so I have been working on this book sort of detailing, for me, I like to write about the transformation. I like to write about lived experiences and kind of the gold that's been mined from those lived experiences, because that's how I get through hard things, is like, okay, but what are we mining here? How are we making life better through this? And for me, I think the real like steadying myself to be okay, truly okay, right here, right now. And I thought that was the whole arc of the book. And as I got into the book, when I got to that part, I was like, oh, this is actually the middle of this arc for me. the next wave that I'm living now is beyond being okay. Once you've steadied yourself and you're truly okay right here, how do you build from here with what you've got and love your freaking life? Because I'm just a person who I don't want to just be like, I'm okay. I'm like, no, I want to love my life. And so if my life needs to look really differently, I'm going to keep giving space for the things that I lament and grieve that can't be a part of my life. But I also want to keep opening the doors into the new, like, well, this is me now. So what does life look like for me in a ways that I'm like, wow, this is great. I love this. And so it's restructuring things around me, restructuring things within me. I really believe that the key to being happy is to take responsibility for I'm going to meet myself wherever I am, and I'm going to feel everything there is to feel, and I'm going to keep giving space for that, and I'm going to support myself in all the ways necessary. I'm going to steady my feet under me, and then I'm going to find ways to feel alive and to feel joy right here and to, squeeze all that I can out of life. So that's what I've been writing about now. And I don't have like and I'll be wrapping that book up I guess I would love by the end of this year to have a rough draft of that book, but we'll see as time and brain injury and doing all the things allow. I don't always get to be in control of the timelines anymore, which is one of the things that I have to work with.
Right. Well, and listening to you because I've known you for so long, I'm having all the emotions of like remembering that first book launch and how much it took to go to not being scared anymore and to being willing to say it. And then I'm remembering, that because the accident happened right when I was moving from Nashville to Atlanta, and I had texted you and said, "Hey, are you free?" And then you didn't respond, and I was just like, I'm hurt by this, to find out you're in a hospital almost dead, right? And yeah, so I'm just having all those emotions right now. And I think with you too, and I want to cover different things like in the physical, things in the world that can stop us and what we can do for just very tangible healing things, and have you talk about specifically brain injury later. But with you, it's like you don't know you're brain injured. You could have these amazing conversations and lead people, and it's like, what do you mean you're brain injured? You don't look brain injured. And of course, with you, it's more in the movement and the driving and a bunch of, the auditory, but like just talking to you.
Yeah. And stamina. I think stamina is the hardest.
Until
because
and
the
stamina.
invisibility of it, the fact that people are like, oh, you don't look, I could never tell. Like that's part of what's hard is, you're doing everything you can to show up and be so present. And, the way that like the recovery from something like this engaged conversation or, what I have to do to reserve my energy in a day to be able to have a conversation like this in an evening, that stamina, which is just not normal life.
Right.
We're used to kind of like, okay, yes, and we can do this. And then I'll push through and do that. There's no pushing through, you've got the dose. This is what injury. This is what you get to deal with. Maybe, because maybe it won't be there today. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and which is why I like what you do, like stepping in with people and like having an understanding, because like we could make judgments on people because we don't know. We just don't what we don't know. And also on that note, I want to hear about Jaclyn's book, and then I do want to just kind of like have you guys ask questions and wrap it up, because Kara, I know you are on you're pushing for me tonight. I know you are. So you don't look like it, but I know it. So, okay. So Jaclyn, tell us about, and I want to see the cover. Let's see this amazing cover of this book that says "not for sale" or something like that. Yeah.
North, and it says "not for resale" because this is the proof copy, right? It
That's awesome.
Right? Woo-hoo, right?
Yeah.
Right. It was funny actually because I got these two books delivered for the podcast that I did yesterday. And then I got this other delivery and I'm like, oh my God, those are my books. Like, that's mine. Like like that's my name on it. And it's like, and Kara, as you know, it's like, you see that and you're like, oh shit. Right. So it's kind of the thing about this book that I think is a little bit different is a lot of times when you'll see a business book or a management, whatever, it's like a title with no kind of interesting kind of graphic. I mean, this could technically, not that I put some guy on here that looks like long flowy hair. It could be like a romance novel or anything, but we put the cover, it's a little bit kind of funny. Penguins have an incredible sense of direction and know where they're going. And if you look, the penguin is nowhere where it should ever be because it's on top of a mountain looking at a vast valley. But it's really it's charting. It's obviously you can see it's charting true north. And this is it's what it's supposed to be one of 7. So it's the first in a series of 7. It took us, I think, my co-author and I think we started writing it or deciding we wanted to write a book in January. And we actually pretty much had it done, but going from the pages to proofing it to get other people to read it, which we really wanted, that process took a heck of a lot longer than we anticipated. So, learning lesson, like have those people lined up to keep the process going. But it's not just your typical book filled. It's actually a workbook. So there's the first section is it's information, and then the second section is exercises, and then there's journal prompts for you to actually write and talk about and think about your leadership. And then there's 31 days of assessing yourself, like with additional prompts to write out, like, how are you in your leadership? How is your leadership journey going? Where are you on the emotional side? Where are you with your values and your principles? So we really wanted it to be something that people grabbed and wrote in and not just read, which is also why it's, so it's, as we have on here, it's like for CEOs who feel the tension between staying true to themselves and meeting the demands of leadership. Because we also, part of that is that whole philosophy of knowing where you are in your life, knowing what your own personal values are and what your own personal mission is, and how do you bring that into leadership and into the company that you're part of or part of that team that you're building, and how do you bring it out in others? Because that's the other key part. Oops.
Oh, there it is. This is our
for a dance party.
It got through because he's on Do Not Disturb. Whoops. Do Not Disturb. And no, I'm on a podcast. It's like those things, like you have like the person that you allow to come through when you put it on Do Not Disturb. It's my husband, so I needed to have him on the.
Yeah, well,
tell him we said hi.
He deserves that. So, yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate and love you guys so much. And Jaclyn, I'm excited to read your new book, and we'll have links to everything for everyone. And Kara, I can almost feel that I know yours because you're later than me right now. So we're on 3 different time zones on this podcast right now. So we're on Pacific time, Central time, and Eastern time, which is super fun. And I love being able to grab people from different parts of the country and talk through things. So, any last words for us of wisdom you guys have as we exit, or thoughts? And if you're all out of thoughts, then you can actually just dance. No.
Well, I would, my last word to people, like just reflecting on, this new venture for you, the healthy, happy, wise, wealthy. I think a lot of times, life is a lot. And it's full of many adventures. And, sometimes when you've been, whether dealt a few hands or gone through some difficult things, I think sometimes you can get in this, state of discouragement where you lose hope or you feel powerless. And I think if I could leave people with one word in all these beautiful conversations that we've had around podcasting and writing and coaching, the thing that I would want people to remember is no matter what has happened in your life, there is always agency to get back on your feet and find a way forward toward a better space for you. And, that's why, we do what we do. And, we do it differently or maybe with slightly different people, but people are people. And, whether you're working with life or business or whatever, but there's always an action you can take and, get support because it's like what we can do with support. It's like farther, faster. I do that in my own life. There are things that I know I can do on my own, and there are things that I know I need support for this. I need a higher support for this because, I want to get where I'm going, and I want someone who knows how to get me there faster to help me along. So, yeah, there's always something you can do to step in and make your life, a better place to be for you.
Yes. And I think, we've said this or alluded to it a couple times, but it's like we do so much better together. And when we know, like, even when we're talking about things that we're not the only one, like, oh, I'm not the only one, the amount of just healing, just knowing that brings, or knowing someone who's like really hears you and knows you is like, oh my gosh, they sometimes it feels almost shocking, but that in and of itself is so healing.
Kara,
So
what I want to say, I guess, also just adding to that parting words is that life is a journey, and we're all on a journey, and that along with like stepping in is and creating that momentum, it's 2 steps. Like we can take 2 steps to create that momentum for what we are doing. And it is a journey, and that no matter what happens, being coming from that place of gratitude that we are living, we are moving forward, and doing like what Mary's doing, which is just hit go, right? And know that it's okay, and we can reflect on the good, the bad, and the ugly, but know that there's always something beautiful that you can learn from it.
Amen. And also, I wouldn't do this without Erica. So it's like better together, right? And I don't think I'd be here without either one of you. So better together. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here for the first one. It just felt like exactly the right thing. And I so appreciate and love you guys. And I'm gonna have you guys on again. And I will talk to you probably a million times
Love
in
you,
the
Mary. Thank you
interim.
for
So,
having us. This was
all right.
really sweet.
Love you.
It was really sweet.